You're listening to Your Rivers Are Wrong, the podcast. My name is Merle. I'm here with my good friend Dante, and we're here to build worlds and tell their stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hey you, yes you, I'm talking to you in particular. I thought you looked familiar. Grab a seat and relax. Welcome back to the Your Rivers Are Wrong podcast. My name's Dante. I'm one of your hosts for today.
And I'm the other one, and my name is Merle, and I'm also here. We're still doing it.
And you're also here. We're also here.
This is our tagline. Let's go.
I'm also here. I'll put that on a mug somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you already know this, but if you don't, on this podcast, we talk about world building and storytelling, the combination of the two, and how it ties into all the media we've consumed over the course of our lives, and how we can write better stories. Now, we prefaced today, right before we started the podcast, that our lives are a bit chaotic right now. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. That is the truth. Yes.
All right. And we decided to save that conversation for this podcast. So how you been? How's your life been? Your week been?
Well, I have this thing where I sometimes, for no particular reason, just don't sleep at all in a night. And I just keep sitting, like, on my couch. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I just keep doing it until it's the morning. And that's not the way you should do things. Because then, 1 day later, you're still good. 2 days later, things are getting rough. 3 days later, you're very confused about, like, everything and constantly behind. So that's where I'm at now. Every now and then this happens. And I know this about the way I do things. So I'll get out of it, but I'm not out of it today.
This is a deeply relatable headspace. I have not gotten good sleep since, it's Sunday. What day is it today? Tuesday?
Yeah.
We
forgot the days.
It's Tuesday, right? It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
You guys will hear this Friday, but we record on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
I have been working on a video for YouTube that I was supposed to put out on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
But the number one problem for every video editor has occurred to me. My program keeps glitching, keeps running into problems and errors and pauses, and I can't edit more than like 30 seconds before the program just full on gives up on me.
Oh, that's awful.
That 6-hour workload has moved to 2 days, then 3 days, then 4 days. And it's like, okay, so how much sleep do I lose for this?
Oh, no.
And then it's pushing everything back just a little bit. And then like, I can't go to sleep confidently because I'm like, I should be working on the video right now. I should be like catching up. So my sleep is trash.
You're like eternally guilty for not editing.
Yeah, literally yesterday, I was going to sleep and then I woke up at 3:30. I'm like, I should be editing right now.
Oh.
But I can't. I'm not looking forward to it. So let me be productive. So I cleaned my room for 2 hours until 5:30 a.m.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's been where I'm at.
It's
been
I
a
feel
trial.
You. Yeah. Do you feel like it's worth losing sleep over, or is it just sort of how it's going now?
It's kind of like I don't know the phrase. It's like a cycle, a self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't get sleep because I need to finish editing, but I can't finish editing because I need sleep.
Yeah.
So I choose one or the other, and I don't get like a fulfilling amount of either. So my work is very much delayed.
Oh, yeah, that sucks, man. But do you have a lot of free time during the week? Because you're working like pretty full time now.
Yeah, I work full time, and my commute is kind of long, so I don't really have too many free hours during the day. It's like 3 hours at night and 2 hours in the morning is my free time. So I divvy that up as I need to. But yeah, it's been a little hectic. Sent a friend off to he's moving upstate. So this weekend we spent a lot of time with him, which was nice.
Oh, that's nice. So yeah.
Yeah, on Sunday, was it Sunday? Saturday? It was Saturday. On Saturday, I got to co-commentate on someone else's live stream. It was for like a D&D thing, and
that's fun.
Basically, they had like a mock tournament of all the highest and like the high CR strongest monsters in the game, and they were pit like 1-on-1, and we had to like guess who was going to come out on top, and we watched.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to say I guessed 4 out of 4 right in terms of results, which is
amazing.
Pat on my back.
Fulfilling, yes.
Yeah.
This was a YouTube thing?
Yeah, it's videos on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
How about you? What have you been busy with?
Well, the way my work is, like I work at local literature festival here, right?
Yes.
And how that works is that sometimes you have a lot of workload and sometimes it's just super chill. Like there's just, just events have passed and then it's just, you're in low energy mode, I guess. Yeah.
Got it.
Which is fine. That's just the way that works. So now things have been picking up, which means that I'm getting like increasingly more busy, which is also nice because it feels like you're productive, right?
Of course.
But then I also said yes to doing like a sort of book design thing for like as a freelance thing, which is nice, but has to be finished in 2 weeks, which is ridiculous because you can't design a book in 2 weeks. But
yes,
here I am, I'm doing it. And it's one of those things where people have to like give you material. It's a sort of, how do you say that? Like not a birthday. What's the word for that? Like a 10-year anniversary. There we go.
Anniversary.
Yeah, for somebody. So people are sending me material, which always is fun because then you have to be like the organizer and also
down.
The designer of it, which is like a double job. So that's been fun. And I've bought an iPad.
Let's go.
For a drawing tablet idea because I used to have like one without a screen for like €100 or something, which was good, but wasn't at all nice for like in a workflow.
Yeah, that's great.
So I've been drawing
like, Procreate with it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and it's so satisfying. Oh my God. I was thinking about this and then my roommate bought also a drawing tablet, not an iPad, but a drawing tablet with a screen. And I was like, I should really stop like mulling this over and just do it because then I just can't get to work, So I've been drawing on the couch and stuff, which is so chill instead of like having to sit at your desk all the time. So some good, some bad, some busies. And since my schedule is like completely fucked now, I realized that because I have like Zoom meetings for work and stuff, like for example, this morning at 10 o'clock, which is like 2 hours before we started recording, I had a Zoom meeting about this book that I'm doing. And I was like barely out of bed. And I was like, okay, I gotta be there. Okay, gotta wake up. So the Zoom meetings keep me in the world, I guess. But yeah, just gotta, sleep well and build up some energy here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, we're working on it.
Yeah, it's I am every day playing the game of chicken. Like, how long can I stay up before risking like waking up too late for work?
Fair. Yeah.
And then you got to be like, but I could go to sleep now. But then I risk sleeping too long and not getting anything done. So that whole like 50-50 risk every night I go to sleep, I'm like taking a chance, a gamble.
Yep. I also feel like because I work from home like 2 days and then 1 day I go to the office for work. Yeah, so the days that I work from home, I usually have a Zoom meeting around 11 o'clock, which means that if I'm very late or if I'm super behind on, morning routine, I guess, I just like wake up 10 minutes before and I'm like, dang, fuck. Okay, hold on. I'll do like minimal effort, maximum result. Let's go. Like, but then the problem with that is that I would love to start at like 9 or 8:30, but I just can't do it if I have like a super shitty schedule, right? So I just keep sort of postponing, and then that means that I can be flexible about hours, so I don't feel like super guilty about it, right? But that means that if I start at 11, I have to like work 2 hours past, and then my whole sort of rhythm shifts because then that means I have dinner later, and then I chill later, and then it just keeps going and going. It's very tricky. Yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah, I've realized there's a whole lot of things I can't do like reliably if I don't have sleep.
Sleep's important, I figure.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think they figured that out like millennia ago.
I keep forgetting it, and then I don't sleep, and then I have like a complete shit week, and I'm like, oh, right, yeah, that was the thing.
Keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
We never learn. Anyway, we have a podcast to do. Let's get into it.
Efficiency.
Sorry.
Keep going.
No, you were good. We're good. I'm sure anyone listening knows that we're both kind of delirious, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So I decided, I'll take it easy on us today. We've been delving into pretty heavy, like pretty deep topics lately.
True.
My topic today is kind of going back to our roots and starting with the fundamentals of world building. So today I wanted to pick out something in particular that is kind of very literally the landmark of world building. I want to talk about mountains. Mountains in every sense of the term: topological, metaphorical, physical, emotional elicitations, whatever a mountain might provide. Now, I'm going to toss this to you very briefly. You're like a full-on cartographer of fantasy, like maps and stuff. You have way more experience than 99% of the world.
Guess so, yeah, sure.
Why do you put mountains on maps? Is there like a specific reason? Is it asked for? Like, what does it usually do for a map?
Well, you can look at that from two ways. Like, either why should you put mountains on a map, or why are mountains part of cartography, right?
Mhm.
Or why do people, ask me to make them? Because usually I have to say it's quite literal what I do, right? Like, of course, I make the nice design for it and stuff, but people often know where they want their mountains, and I just draw them where they want. There's not a lot of sort of creative input from my side of that, except for, the visuals of it, of course, which
Sure.
is fine. But usually, I guess what is noticeable for me is that there's not a lot of like loose feeling mountains. Often it's like a big range or something that's in the way of a trade route, or it has a function. Either it's sort of shielding one side of the country, so it's sort of kind of like, I guess, Rocky Mountains style, where you have sort of the edge of a country that's like super high altitudes and stuff. Or it's more that they are interested in the valley part, so the cliff. No, what's that called? Not cliffs, but how do you call that when you have like a big, not a valley, but like a tear in the I don't know words. How do you say this? When you have like a
What are you looking for?
like, hold on, I'll translate it. What? I can't stand this. This is so annoying. Okay, hold on.
Okay, so you know the word in like Dutch. You can
I think so. Wait, hold on. Is this
I'm trying to
cliff?
figure-
No, because cliff is on the edge of a country, no? Cliff?
what is
It's
cliffs
like
can
a
be anywhere.
Oh,
Cliffs
wait, I
can
know
be-
the word. Hold on. To English. Oh, gap, they say? No. Chasm? Ravine, I
Chasm.
guess. Something like that.
Chasm, ravine.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Canyon, maybe?
Canyon,
those
yeah,
are
I guess
options.
so. Okay, well, one of those. I guess ravine. We'll go with ravine. But yeah, a lot of people are interested in either the fact that it's like a super high mountain, or the fact that it results in deep valleys or
Mhm.
ravines of sorts, right? The height difference is the interesting part of it, usually.
Yes.
So it's either that, so you have a big sort of range of mountains, or a big area that's filled with mountains, right? Similar to forests. Like, not a lot of people just have a few tiny forests. It's either a very big, spooky, interesting forest, or it's
Mhm,
no
mhm.
forest at all, right? It's kind of similar. Sometimes they have like more, if we're talking about landmarks, more either a super unique looking structure, or a unique looking mountain, or a very famous mountain, and then it can be
Mm.
just one of them, right? Or a very famous tree, sun tree, or the tree from Avatar,
Mhm.
right? The big one. Then it becomes a landmark in itself, so then it can be a single one.
Yeah.
So it depends a little bit. Yeah. And for myself, I usually do the same thing too, I would say. Like, if I want to have mountains somewhere, or a specific sort of interesting element on a map, it's usually a big range or something blocking the way, like geographically, that causes sort of interesting conflicts or problems around borders of countries, or around, streets, or the way that roads work.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess I usually go with that.
Yeah. Like when we look at like realistic, real world, like topological maps, the mountains are there. Obviously, they're significantly like where the tectonic plates collide and form these structures that rise very tall. But when you look towards like fantasy maps or any sort of fictional maps, mountains are almost always intentional. There are
Yeah.
very specific purposes to mountains in literature. Very specifically because they're impossible to miss. You look at any landscape, any like skyline, any horizon, the mountains are going to be important as a dignifier of a location, somewhere to be.
Mhm.
The Lord of the Rings is literally a journey to Mountain of Mordor. I don't know my Lord of the Rings very well, but it's a very long trip towards a
neither.
mountain that's
You're good.
very important.
Yeah.
Um,
Good summary.
and so many stories are built around this physical monumental challenge, like impossibly high, something's at the top, very important. It's a physical task, a mental task, it's an emotional task. It's truly a culmination of a character pushing themselves to the limit
Yeah.
to face this obstacle. A mountain is something that everybody understands, everybody recognizes. It very rarely needs explanation why the mountain is important, but it's often a place used to house places of legend, people of fable, a villain's lair.
Mm.
My favorite is Chekhov's volcano. It's a literary term which means that if there's a volcano in the story, it's going to erupt.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
other
yeah.
reason to have the volcano there if it
Mhm.
never erupts.
Fair enough. Yep.
It just seems to be a kind of meeting place for the characters to receive a challenge.
Mhm.
Have you ever utilized any mountains in your stories before? Because I have on multiple occasions
Oh, okay.
had to rely on them to kind of tell a story.
Nice. Let me think. I think so. Not specifically like one, ultimate challenge mountain. I definitely did Chekhov's volcanoes. Guilty of that
Mhm.
one. I had like a mountain range that sort of splits countries, or how do I say that?
Civilizations?
Yeah. I had a sort of mountain range that split like continents into two.
Oh,
So it would be one big sort of plain of land, but then there was one big mountain range kind of in the middle of it. It was sort of untraversable, like it was really sort of rough terrain, I guess. And also because of
sure,
that
sure.
difficulty, there wasn't a lot of back and forthing between it.
Hmm.
And then there was one place like on like the most difficultly traversable part of this mountain range. I don't know where is anymore. There was like one part that had like a sort of tiny lake with an island in it, and then a few of my characters grew up there and had no idea about the rest of the world.
Gotcha.
So that was a
Gotcha.
sort of interesting play on like living remotely, I guess, and sort of perspective. If you look from one side, this is just a wall of mountain that
Hmm.
the world ends there for characters that just live on either one of the plains, versus if you live right in the middle of it on this tiny island with just your mom and your sibling, then that's all there is. And because you can't go anywhere else, or because the other way around is, hard to get to,
Yeah, yeah.
it's irrelevant, and the world ends where the mountain range ends, I guess, which is interesting. And I guess a lot of times it's also about perspective for me, because it also blocks things, or it becomes difficult terrain, and I think that's the most interesting aspect for me as well. And I think I played also with that the most whenever I use mountains.
Yeah, the fact that mountain ranges are like natural borders are something we take from real life, of course.
Yeah.
But heavily used in literature. Like, all right, the Dragon Prince, the between the human kingdoms to the west and the elven kingdoms to the east, it's a huge mountain range that divides them, with a river of lava splitting them. So,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
there's obvious reasons why these two communities would live entirely apart.
Mhm.
I remember there was a season of the anime Sword Art Online where there was a community that knew nothing of the outside world because there was a large mountain range that kind of closed them in like a circular
Right. Yeah.
valley. But once they got to the other side, like traversed like a day or two through the mountain caverns, they realized that the other side of the world was like heavily destroyed and highly technological. And it's just like,
Interesting.
oh, they're like way
Oh, we're
the
just
world is
chilling
very
here, and
different.
there's more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's very
Right.
like their home was very utopian, but once they stepped out of it, they're like, wait, there's the greater world is a mess.
Yeah, that's interesting. Isn't that also a bit like Maze Runner plot, or is it something else? Maybe I
Yeah,
misremember.
Maze Runner or what? They were surrounded by like just a long
Kind of,
maze
right?
that kept them
Yeah, sort of.
from desolate dystopian world, greater world.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar.
So how do you use mountains then? You have examples, right? Because I'm quite curious.
Yeah. Well, my campaign that is very loosely based on Avatar and the Four Elements
Mm-hmm.
started on a mountain where they met from four corners of the world on this mountain to get to the top, and at the top you get to meet the gods and accept your elemental blessing. So their first journey as co-adventurers was to traverse this mountain.
That's
So
cool.
it was like physical checks to climb the cliffside. It was like
Right.
like navigation, survival, finding places to rest, finding things to eat. It's just a very easy introduction into adventuring in general. And then when they get to the top, they're like, "Hey, here's the plot." It just kind of drops on. Once they get to the
Chekhov's
top, they're
plot,
like, "Well,
yeah.
this is the world." They get their blessings, and then the world is changed forever as an invader comes in and removes everybody else with a blessing, so they remain to be the only ones who
Interesting.
hold the blessings of the gods.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, a
like,
great sort of scene.
of course,
Mountaintop is
things
a good
falling.
backdrop for drama and cool plots, of
Yeah.
course.
Earthquakes, rocks falling. They got to hurry down to the bottom as quick as
Amazing.
possible.
Yeah.
All those things.
Love
And yeah, well before I started watching Dragon Prince, I also had my own the first ever fantasy setting I made, and just like many before me, tried and true, I split the human and elven kingdoms with a mountain range.
Yeah.
Which is
As you do.
very, very reliable, very reliable.
Love it.
And of course, like I've used Chekhov's volcano before. I usually just put a real big bad inside of it. And I'm like, they live here. If you want to mess with them, you got to mess with the volcano too, you know? Very, very simple, reliable stuff.
I mean, I like it though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I only did a volcano once. It wasn't really a setting, but more of a short sort of fairy tale kind of story.
Mhm.
There would just be like a sort of, how do you say that? Like a folk tale, like whispers in the community about one boy that would have traversed this volcano and disappeared forever, or they said they've either fallen into it or they've sort of got hurt along the way and they're just stuck there.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of a ghost thing. And then one of the main characters sees someone flying in the air and then is almost obligated mentally to follow that person or thing. And then they end up going all the way to this volcano and then peering into the top, and then it's just sort of a skyscape, I should say.
Like
so it's
in the
not
volcano?
it's not a volcano at all, and then it's sort of a loophole, and then they fall into it. At the end of the story, like a new character sees the main character sort of fly in the air, and then the same thing happens.
Yeah, I think from the ancient days when we look towards these crazy mile-high structures, there's a little bit of a divinity attached to it, you know? It's kind of like very Tower of Babel, like go as high as you can go to get closer to the gods sort of thing,
sure.
You know?
Yeah.
A supernatural feat attached to just getting to the top and finding out what's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's there's so many more examples. I feel like you can go on, and every story has some sort of, if it's a fantasy setting, check the map. There's absolutely a mountain. There are I can't be convinced that there's a fantasy map out there that doesn't include at least one mountain, and if it does, that mountain is important. It's simply a fantastic place to challenge the characters physically, mentally, emotionally, and just house something very important. Because there has been this sort of legend and mythos attached to the highest, tallest natural landmarks of the world.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also nice how people sort of in the real world too, I guess, want to sort of emulate that feeling, right? By building skyscrapers or the Aztec kind of temples and like super high stairs and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because it evokes sort of the similar feel of mystique and sort of imposing, you know, strength and stuff.
Yeah, and of course, like a natural hierarchy, like the taller you're building, the more important you are.
Guess
you know?
so, yeah.
Yeah, which is why villains always put their houses there. Or
the more you know.
And we haven't even talked about like all the caverns within, like dragons with hordes or mountains full of orcs. Like there's a whole segment of The Hobbit. Is it The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings? Gosh, I don't remember. Where they're just tumbling down the mountain, like going down the river. And it's like a 20-minute long sequence of them just going all the way back down and trying to escape danger. Going down the mountain is also a full difficult task.
That's
and usually a lot
level,
faster.
Yeah. I mean,
usually
fair
a
enough.
lot faster.
Yeah. If you do it wrong, you can be like super fast about it. But you probably die. Yeah.
Yeah. Terror, treachery, mystique, mythos, all things that you should attach to any mountains you attach or add to your setting. That's honestly all I had to say about it. I know that feels a little bit short compared to topics we've covered lately, but
no, that's fine.
If we're going to talk about like map making, world building, all that, you got to talk about the mountains.
Yeah. For sure.
Eventually we're going to get to rivers, but we're kind of saving that for a special day.
This will be like the forever episode. Like once in the future, we will actually talk about the river.
Yeah, but it is not today.
No. Nope.
Unless that is your next topic.
It is not.
Okay. So,
how interesting would it be if it actually was RIP? No.
Perfect segue into your topic for the day.
Yeah. I also have, I think, a little bit of a smaller topic today.
Sure.
I think we needed a breather, perhaps. And I just want to talk a little bit to you about the sort of very real problem that is last minute prep. Or not being prepared and sort of having to wing it. It's very topical.
Love
yes.
it. Love
which
it.
is why I thought about it. But I think it's interesting also to talk about it, you know, jokes aside, because it happens. And it's
of course
also a problem that literally everyone, at least every dungeon master, and very much myself also, have had. There's days where you're just not prepared, or you don't sleep, like we talked about.
Like we do.
Or there's, something changed, or your players are going in a complete different direction. Or, I don't know, you're just not feeling it, or your improv is not really going anywhere. those are days, and then you're still running a game. So just to start off with a question, like, I'm just wondering how you feel about that, and if you have sort of ways to deal with it, or if you try to prepare for those days, or yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's on my mind every week. Every week.
Hey.
As I run like minimum 1, maximum like 3 sessions a week. I play a lot of D&D. Nose goes to show.
Guess you love it then.
I do. It
No
is
shit.
truly the it's taken up the most of my time, but it is like a leisure activity. So it's a little bit of a
sure.
catch-22. I use it to relax, and it also stresses me out. So,
yep.
So basically, when you want to be a dungeon master for a game, you want to plan your next D&D session. You'll quickly learn that you do not have time to prep everything. The whole premise of D&D is that it's collaborative improv, right? So there's no way to plan for what your players will bring to the table. They will have their own ideas, their own spins, their own takes, and they'll do things that you cannot prep for. That's just the fact of the matter. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you start to optimize your workload. There's a benchmark. I believe it was set by Matt Mercer. He explained, like, people asking like, how much time do you spend on D&D prepping a session? And he's like, before I started running like Critical Role as like a serious show, a good benchmark for me was 1 hour of prep for 1 hour of session. So if you're planning your session to be 3 hours long, set aside 3 hours to plan it through, which I use as the benchmark to reasonably assume like how much time I need to set up for something.
Okay.
So I'll section some like 30 minutes some days, like an hour some days, and just make sure I have time. I give myself time to prep when I need to. So when I don't have that time, first things first, I tell my players. I'm like, hey, it's been a busy week. I wish I could have prepped this as much as I wanted to, but I wasn't able to. So I do have a hard stop to the things that I have prepared. So we can play up till that point, basically.
Sure.
And usually my players are very understanding. They're like, yeah, we get it. Of course, you're busy. That is perfectly fine. And they'll usually stretch it with their own like personal conversations. So transparency.
Anyway.
Yeah, transparency with your friends and the people you're playing with, that like sometimes you just can't. And it's truly a luxury for us as friends to be able to meet up week to week and just have this time together. So like,
that's true. Yeah.
If your DM says that they haven't had time to prep, totally understandable. That's something that happens all the time, you know?
That's quite interesting because I think I prefer to not really talk about it that much unless it's really a thing where I'm just like, I have literally nothing for now, or I don't know how to even start it. That would be, I guess, different. But yeah, the thing that you were saying, like, usually players already sort of figure it out or are distracted by other things anyway. So I realized ever since I've started running a campaign like more long term, which is still like every once in 2 weeks or something, so it's a bit less intense than your schedule. But I've realized that whenever I don't have time to prep, I'm not really feeling it or something, the session is usually just sort of a bit of fucking around. Or a lot of times I've realized that I sort of make the traveling to a place longer, so I use more checks, or they're noticing things along the way or something, or I just let them have more sort of in-between character talk and stuff. So it's a lot of filler, but it's also kind of fine. So I realized that if I don't really say, I'm not feeling it or I'm not prepared the way I wanted to, it still kind of works. And it's also kind of interesting how then I prefer, I guess, to not lift the veil too much, if that makes sense.
It's fair. Yeah, absolutely. That is totally something that you deserve to have, like the right to not inform your players about like or like what's going on behind the scenes. Helps keep up the mystique and the immersion of the campaign. But there will be times for me where I go to the players and I'm like, hey, this is the scenario. This is where we ended the last session. What do you plan to do next? So I can prep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's
always a good one.
Sometimes there's like 3 options on the table and I truly don't have time to prep all 3 options.
Yeah.
So if they could spend like 2-3 days talking out a character to say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is, I think, what we've decided on. So like I can properly flesh that out way more than the other 2 options.
Makes sense.
Even if they change their mind, like I'll still have something that I can go off of.
Yeah.
I've realized this as a DM, and I've taken it into consideration and like really thought it through as a player, but it comes down to like respecting each other's time, you know?
Hmm.
A DM quite often puts in double the amount of hours to make a session happen, right? So like,
yeah, for sure.
if you're playing for 4 hours, you have to consider that that person is also putting in 4 hours, close to 4 hours throughout their week that you might not have to consider as a player. So helping them facilitate that, helping them like keep keep their workload to a minimum is often the best thing you can do as a player for somebody who quite doesn't have time to prep multiple sessions. I find myself running into that a lot, and it does get tiring, and sometimes I do get frustrated, but at the end of the day I have to remind myself I'm playing this for fun, right? I have to enjoy the process, and if I don't, then I stop doing it, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Gosh, don't stress yourself out too much. It's a game.
No,
game with your
that's
friends.
very fair. Yeah.
It's a glorified hangout where you guys spend time with each other. So
I like that word. Yeah.
Don't kill yourself. Don't kill yourself, especially in that. But in further reaches, right? Where the topic is like not having enough time. Do you want to extend it to like things outside of D&D? Do you have things in mind where this kind of reaches into like personal projects and all that?
A little bit, but right before that, I just wondered, since we're talking about it now anyway, because what I like to do, but I think that's also different because I have like less of a busy D&D schedule, like every 2 weeks.
Sure.
Is, of course, a less amount than what you're doing. But I also found myself really preferring just to do like 1 or 2 days every, month or something where I just hardcore prep and just sort of lay out a lot of shit and do a lot of work. I realized that I can sort of lean on that for quite a lot of sessions until sort of an arc is complete or something. So I also realized that I have to do it in bursts to make it work. But the way you just talked about it also sounds like you have a sort of weekly thing going on. Do you also run into preferring to plan more, or just do you sort of prep for every 3 sessions, or is it super varied because they just do different things all the time, or how does that go for you?
Well, this is
Also
not
fair.
a solution. This is not a solution. Just let me put that disclaimer here.
Sure.
But for me, because I play a lot of D&D, I always think about D&D. So it's like during my commute, while I'm working, while I'm eating lunch, I will constantly think about D&D and like where I can take the campaign and what stories like I'm looking forward to telling. So when I do sit down, I have like this bundle of ideas just ready to be written down on paper.
That's good.
So like I open up my Notion, I put a blank page, I don't even title it. I'm just like session for this date. And I just like dump everything I think of. And then once it's on the page, I'm just like, okay, let's make this make sense.
Sure.
Also very often right after a session when I've wrapped it up and I'm done and everybody's gone off to bed, I'm like, I write down everything that I have established in that session. And because I still have like the high of running the adventure, I can keep going. Like I have the energy and the motivation to just like continue on. So like, what happens next? What are they going to run into next?
Okay. Yeah.
That is a perfect time for me where I have both the energy and the motivation and the ideas to keep going.
So that's like right after a game?
Yeah, right after the game.
Oh,
and
cool.
if it's like, because if you're like in the middle of the week and you only have an hour, it's like, oh, I don't want to like start thinking about this right now.
Yeah, you have to like
get
into it.
Yeah, like usually my sessions end pretty late at night. So like it's like the hour before I go to sleep, I just write out what I want to do next.
Sure. Oh, that's so interesting because I'm always so drained after a game. I mean, I love it. It's super fun, specifically if I've prepped well, or prepared properly. I like to sort of keep a logbook of what they've been doing every session so that I can refer to it. So I just have a sort of mini, Wikipedia going on in my Notion just about the previous sessions. And I struggle to, even write that down after game, even though that's just like absolutely. 6 bullet points. So I'm super amazed that you have like even a super high like that after a game. It's not an organized, like that, which is interesting.
It's not an organized or reliable process at all. It's not. There are times when I will just pass out and I'll just be like, I'm done. But usually when I wake up in the morning, I'll still have a little bit of motivation. Literally this past weekend, I ran something on Sunday where I basically lore dumped my players with the backstory of themselves, because I'm running like a parallel timeline sort of thing where like this adventure has already happened and it failed, So it's
That
happening
sounds
again
so complicated.
in a
Holy
second
shit.
shit. It is, and it's a mess. And
I
but
will
it's a
never
beautiful
burn
mess,
my
and I'm proud
hands
of
on
it.
time travel, but I
Yeah,
applaud you for
don't
it.
pull that card. I saw Nick do it, and I'm like, I could do that, and I can't do that. But I've been working for 2 years to do that, and I think I've got it.
Aw,
Because literally, like
fair.
last night, I finally like pulled the curtain, and I was like, this character that you're meeting right now was you in a past life, who
interesting.
went through hoops and leaps and bounds to get this information to you in this life through all the technology and all the memories that he's gathered during his lifetime, and now it's yours. Best of luck, you know. So I literally just I heavy lore dumped, and I just
sure.
and like by the end of it, I recognize that this doesn't make sense to them because they haven't been thinking about it for the last 6 months. I have. So
yep.
So
it's
they
the
were
best
asking
way
questions.
to know to just test if your world building makes any sense, to literally throw it at players and be like, do you understand what I'm saying or no?
Yeah, I was using terms and acronyms that I established for myself that I have never used for them. So like the character that this story heavily was invested in, if he ever listens to this, he knows what I'm talking about. He asked questions for like an hour and a half of just like trying to clarify what in the world this information meant. So we went to sleep. Everybody was like, hey, hey DM, do you mind, like, I think it'd be really cool if you guys made like a timeline of what just got lore dumped on us. And I'm like, I could do that. Do you have any programs you recommend? And they're like, we have no idea. And I'm like, okay, I'll use Photoshop. So I spent the next hour photoshopping a timeline of their past lives in 2 timelines, crisscrossing where people like got married and had children and like had predecessors that mattered, that played a part in the story. Chuck that out.
I can't wrap my head around it, and I'm not even doing it. Like,
I went to sleep, woke up, sent it to them, went into Notion, and then rewrote my lore dump so it would make sense to me. It's like 15, 20 paragraphs. And I'm like, I can't believe I can't believe I talked about this in 2 hours. And at the top of the session, I was not ready to do that, but it just kind of spilled out, and like, it was like kind of a creative like moment.
Kind of happened. Sure.
Yeah, like I like where the spider webs kind of pieced itself together as I was speaking. And I wrote it and I sent it. I sat down and I'm like, all right, I'm proud of that. That was pretty cool. And then like they're reading it and they're finally like understanding it. Now they have time to process it, and they're like, this is like, oh, everything kind of makes sense now. The everything that we've like encountered and read,
like things in the past,
in previous sessions, are starting to tie in. And I'm like, oh,
that's cool.
How validating is that?
That's super
how
satisfying.
validating
Yeah, I love
is that feeling. And I'm just like, okay, finally I can relax. And you guys know what I know, so we can just play this on even terms. And let's go, you know?
Yeah. It's so funny how so often, you know, there's so much work behind the scenes that as a player you just don't see because it's not time yet. There's been so much just sitting in my Notion, and it's so cool. But no one will ever see it until they get there.
Yeah, and you said like you like to keep kind of the players kind of in the dark and like not make it too obvious like what's going on, right? I like the mystery of it.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that you sit on these secrets for months and possibly years, right? And it just kind of crumbles in your.
It's the worst thing about this method. Yeah,
but it can't be now. I can't tell you now.
I have so many like talks with either my brother or my roommate who plays in this campaign, where I'm like, dang, I made something really amazing yesterday, but you'll never see it until like months later.
Yeah.
Hate that for me. Oh well.
And I hate that for you. And that's the driving force of DMs in D&D, that they watch their stories come to fruition, and so watching their players just realize all the hard work that's been put in is so satisfying.
Yeah, for sure.
So satisfying.
Takes a long breath, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is very satisfying.
Yeah, I'm quickly realizing why I didn't sleep on Sunday. That's exactly why. Okay, cool.
Some time traveling on your own as well. Right, sure.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I can really get it though, how it's like super exhilarating to, you know, figure that shit out and make it work in your brain and also in your own prep notes and for the players. So it makes sense that you lose sleep over it, because it sounds like a very exciting reveal that you just had there.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. So love it. Capping notes on this topic. Take care of yourself.
Yes.
If you're writing a story, if you're working on a project and you just don't have the time or don't have the hours in the day, if you're doing it for fun, remember why it's fun. I think is important, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Remind yourself like why you're doing it, and really value your hours, value your minutes and your time to, you know, handle it properly, give it the due respect, but also to treat yourself well, you know, get your right amount of sleep, to not kill yourself for things that other people might never recognize, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And maybe a last thought on this as well.
Of course.
I have to say, sometimes it does lead to very good moments, because if you're not prepared, you really have to sort of go with the flow and take it wherever it's going. And sometimes that also is a very nice exercise. Not always a nice one in terms of like feeling prepared or not, but it's also kind of the nature of the game a little bit, right? Like improv is kind of a big part of it. So every now and then to just have like a completely, you know, let's just fucking go with whatever we're doing right here.
Right.
It's kind of refreshing too. So I also kind of like that I am not always perfectly prepared. I mean, I would never be able to for the life of me, but you know, in a way it's also kind of nice to have those moments every now and then to sort of refresh yourself on, you know, how it works if there's not notes to read from. If you just sort of are being led on by whatever you have done before. It can work both ways, I should say. And also don't lose sleep over it. Yeah.
Sometimes lose sleep over it. Sometimes.
Yeah, like only sometimes.
But not,
if you have like a really cool
frequently.
time travel moment, then okay, allowed. Not more than necessary.
More often than not. Yes,
exactly.
there you go.
Yes.
Cool.
Perfect.
Okay. And yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into my prompt, which
sure.
Oh, it's topical. Ooh, so topical.
Okay.
You're gonna love this. I'm gonna need whatever energy you have at the moment for this. This world building prompt. I hope you're ready because I have a personal request that I want to be able to visualize this.
Damn. Okay. No pressure.
No pressure. No, you can add whatever. I'm asking for whatever energy you have. I'm not asking for a clean story.
Okay. Prefer that.
I'm just asking for like whatever's on your mind. Okay, here we go.
Let's
you ready?
Go. Yes.
This is for you. This is the main character is late to school. They have 5 minutes to make a 10-minute trip. That's the prompt.
That's the prompt? Okay.
That's the prompt. And that's it.
It's the cutest prompt. My brain just instantly went like first episode of Sailor Moon where she just jumps out of bed and stuff.
I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna visualize exactly what you say, word for word.
Okay.
I'm totally tuned in.
Okay.
Of course, no rush. Take your time. You know.
Yeah. This requires like mental brain power here. Okay. This girl is, I think, maybe like 6 years old. She's probably 6 years old. You know, she has a comfortable home. She has like the cutest bedroom you've ever seen. Like there's plants everywhere. She has a lot of guinea pigs and like there's an aquarium that she just looks into all the time and is like maybe a bit too fancy for her age. Like maybe her parents like it more than her. So she wakes up, she shoots up. There's like the smell of like cooked, I don't know, pancakes or something wafting through her door like from downstairs. And she doesn't realize that she's late. But as soon as she's downstairs, her mom is like, "What are you doing? Why are you still here? I thought you already left." This is probably like either a dream or something because this is how my brain works today. So, you know, there's no like parental control here. Sure, let's go for it. She has these super cool like magnetic skates. This is sci-fi now. This is
Sure.
This is a city where all the sort of roads are super magnetic. So you can either, you know, have these cool sort of boots or you have a sort of car where you can sit in with multiple people. And it's just sort of a super fast magnet line of sorts that you can just travel with. So she has these skates because she's tiny and she likes the look of it because she's, you know, she's an aesthetic girl like you are.
She's 6 years old. Right.
Yeah. She's 6 years old.
An aesthetic girl like me. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
This prompt goes absolutely nowhere, but bear with me here.
I'm ready.
Okay. You know, she just takes a little bit of the food from on the table, puts it in her mouth, and keeps chewing. As soon as she just puts her jacket on and sort of takes her stuff and almost forgets like half of her backpack that she always has to wear and stuff. Then she runs out, connects to the magnet line, and then just zoofs out of there. Usually this indeed takes 10 minutes because she loves this magnet line so much that she usually tries to, you know, do it a little bit longer or leave a little bit earlier or show off to the older people that are like right behind her because there's a lot of school people, like school kids, you know, taking the same line back and forth. So every now and then she would just skate backward for a little bit and be like, oh yeah, I just casually do it like that. She thinks she's very accomplished like that. But not this time. This time she got 5 minutes and she need all the minutes to get to school. She's just taking all the speed that she has in her tiny, cute little body and heads out of there. Almost knocks over like an older couple that's just sort of chilling halfway down this line in a sort of motor vehicle of sorts. And is like, I'm so sorry. And then she's already out of the way. And she keeps going and going. At some point, it looks like it's going to rain, but it's not raining. And she's like, yes, the universe is with me today. She skates and skates and skates for her life. Super out of breath. She sees the school in the distance. And then in the distance, the clouds part a little bit. And the sun is like cheering her on as she finishes the last, meters of this, obstacle course at this point. She's sweating. Her backpack is like thumping on her back from the movement all the time. And then she like, usually you sort of slow down and then you like disconnect from the line and then walk further and then you take off your skates and then you can just walk into the building. Well, not this time. She just takes it like a ramp, literally floats in this, floats over all the necessary things that you usually should do to disconnect to this line and stands in front of the door just as the school bell is ringing. And she's like, yes! I made it, and she's super satisfied and sweaty for the rest of the day. And this is my entry.
This is your entry?
Yep, that's all I got. This is how my brain works today.
No, I saw it. I could hear the upbeat jazz in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you
see? They're racing through.
Did you visualize the stickers on her skates? They probably had like unicorns on them or something, or fish, maybe both.
I was still kind of stuck on the 6-year-old doing sick tricks in the street.
Yeah. They are especially sick because like she's not super good at it. She just loves skating. And there's like people that are way older than her that just do these cool tricks. And she's like, oh, if I just, put on the most casual face, like I do this all the time. And I just do like things that are super hard for me, that are super basic and for anyone else, like skating backwards for like 1 second. I will probably like have a pretty good impression on these folks. So,
When you mentioned like the mom saying, why are you still here? I was ready for the mom to go into panic mode and like drive with the kid. But then when you sent the kid out with the skates, I'm like, oh, we're going that way. Sure, that works too.
I realized as I was saying that she woke up, I was like, wait, why are her parents like not waking her up? And it didn't work anymore. So, the mom is an irresponsible mom. That's, they exist.
Spoken into canon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
Good one. I like that. I really, really like that. And I could see
I don't know what I think
every
of that
step
one.
of the way. Yeah. I was getting like heavy Air Gear vibes, heavy
Nice.
like first episode of a slice of life anime.
Pretty much.
I
Yeah.
was imagining the toast in their mouth, as
The
they're
only thing
running.
that was in my brain was that she was like chubby and she loved fish and that there's like a magnet reel because I like magnet reels. That's all I got.
I love how
And it created this beautiful, beautiful mess.
Yeah, I'm visualizing you receiving the prompt and he just says chubby fish roller skates.
I mean, sort of.
And
I
you
mean,
just
it's
run with
basically
it.
Sailor Moon, but like tiny and with a magnet reel because those are cool.
Amazing. All right. Well,
I did it.
It looks like that's and you did. It looks like that's all the time we have today.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in as we desperately try to piece our lives back together.
Yep.
And tackle the rest of the week with the tasks we have in front of us. Wherever you're going right now, whether you're commuting to work or sitting down at a desk, I hope you get everything you need done. I hope your time is well managed and your sleep is long and lengthy.
Yes.
And as you're listening to this podcast, I hope you take another chance to think about or consider world building and storytelling for yourself. But as you do, always remember, your rivers are wrong.
Yes, they are.
You have a wonderful week. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Your Rivers Are Wrong. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future episodes that you'd like to hear us cover, feel free to contact us at yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. Our intro and outro music is written by Maarten Schellekens. Thanks for that. And again, thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you at the next one.